welcome back to our Kubernetes series. Today in this particular video, we'll be discussing on persistent volume. So what exactly the problem with the regular volumes and what is the persistent volume, how the persistent volume works, a step-by-step flow and key features of a persistent volume. And there are certain types of storage backends supported or offered by the persistent volume. We'll be seeing that, and also how exactly the database pod plus persistent volume works together. We'll be seeing a real world example, and then a complete persistent volume lifecycle, how exactly the storage is managed over your time, and what are the status beginning till the end. Okay, and we'll be seeing a quick overview or recap of these particular points. So without further ado, let's enter into the video and have a discussion. First thing, persistent volume is something, it offers a persistent storage within the Kubernetes clusters. So it offers a kind of liveliness of your pod data, and this is how exactly the whole picture looks like. Okay, so it is your cluster storage architecture, which was the persistent volume. Let's say if you have pod A, pod B, your application container, database container, so that particular data can be stored in this, and if this restart also, you can mount the same persistent volume and you can see the old data of that container. Okay, now let us see the problem, like what exactly the shortage, how the persistent volume solves the problem. Okay, first thing was the containers are ephemeral in nature, as we said in previous video. Also we discussed about the volumes, right? So they just start, they run and die. So their entire file system is wired, that means removed on each and every restart. The it is basic volumes are tied to the pod, and empty directory disappears whenever the pod is deleted, and there is not truly persistent, we can say. Okay, if you use volumes also, and the pods can move across the nodes. That means the Kubernetes may reschedule your pod to a different nodes, so leaving the data behind. That is a challenge, and especially for production applications that need a independent storage. So the databases cannot rely on the storage that destroys along with the pod, and the storage must be lived pods, that I mean outlived pods. That means if a new pod replaces an old one, it must connect to the same existing data, and here is without a persistent volume, and here is the with the persistent volume. Let's say if we have a without persistent volume, if we have a database pod, and if it was rescheduled or deleted, the entire data will be gone, and obviously new pod will be created, but there is no database, no data is right. And if it is persistent volume then attached for that particular node, then in that case the pod is connected to the persistent volume, and if the pod is restarted, the persistent volume is still connected and data was still present. Now let us see what is the persistent volume. First thing, it is a storage resource within the Kubernetes cluster. So it is provided by an admin or dynamically by the Kubernetes itself, automatically it will provide. And it exists independently from the pod. So persistent volume has its own life cycle. So pod dies, persistent volume still survives. So if the pod restarts, data is still present. And it is managed by the Kubernetes cluster. That means the Kubernetes will track the persistent volume state, whether is it available, bound, release, and you don't need to manage that manually. And it can be reused by applications. That means whenever one application is done, the persistent volume can be made available again for another application. Okay, and the back it can be backed by a real storage. That means we can use the cloud disks or cloud file system storage or local ssds. So the persistent volume is an abstract over the real physical or else the cloud storage. That means it covers on under the hood the cloud storage, all the storages. Okay, persistent volume stays above of that abstraction layer. Okay, and for simple analogy, for better understanding, you can think like persistent volume is a permanent room in a building, and the pods are the tenants. So pods may come and go, but the permanent one was the room. Room will be stays permanent. So this is how exactly a understanding or high level overview of persistent volume in a cluster. We have a Kubernetes cluster that have a pod A and pod B. If the persistent volume was attached, the that is available, and persistent volume will outlive any of the pod or any of the container. Okay, and we'll be seeing more about this availability status and what is RWO, everything. Okay, in the upcoming. And let us try to understand how exactly the persistent volume works, a step-by-step flow. Okay, first thing, admin will create a persistent volume. So, per se, while creating, we are going to define the size, what is the type, and what is the access mode. Let's say example 50 GB AWS EBS block storage that exists within the cluster and status is available. Then the application request will be stored via the PVC. PVC is the persistent volume claims. So volume claim. So here app will create a persistent volume claim and it says I need 20 GB storage. So Kubernetes finds a matching persistent volume. Once it finds, Kubernetes will binds the PVC to the PV. Okay, that means Kubernetes will matches the claim to a suitable persistent volume so that the persistent volume status is changed to bind. Okay, bound. Okay, and earlier it was available, later it was bound. So here pod can now use the storage after the bound. So then the pod will mounts the PVC and uses the storage. So pod access, there is a, I mean, pod can access a slash data this particular path and reads and writes the data to the persistent volume. So the database will be stored safely in the persistent volume. And finally, pod restart. So persistent volume data is untouched. Whenever the new pod starts or remounts the same persistent volume via the persistent volume climb, all the data is intact and there is no loss within the data. Okay, and this is the high level flow whatever we just discussed. Okay, binding flow looks like admin will create a persistent volume, then persistent volume will be available, and that persistent I mean it binds with the PVC. Okay, and that it mounts a pod. Okay, and that uses a slash data whenever it was crashed or restarted, then the already we have binded that particular volume mount, right? So there is no lots with the data. Now let us understand key features of persistent volume. First thing was persistent data storage it offers. So that means the data will be survives after pod crashes or deletions and node rescheduling also. Okay, always available the data and independent from the containers. So here persistent volume has its own life cycle. Deleting a pod will never deletes the persistent volume or its data also, and it supports many storage backends. So it supports the local disks, network file system, AWS CBS, GCP, uh, Azure Disk, okay, and many more. And it is reliable across the applications. That means persistent volume can be retained and reclaimed after one application is done. Then it can be rebounded to the another application or pod. Okay, and it is essential for stateful applications, especially the databases or some QS or file storage that requires a persistent volumes to function a reliability to achieve the reliability in the production environments. So here as I said, RWO was those are basically access modes. RWO, ROX. Okay, ROX is something read only many. RWO is read write once. RWX is read write many. So this controls how many pods can use a persistent volume simultaneously. Now this is like a overview of whatever the just points we have covered. Persistent volume features. Okay, persistent data, independent, multi backend, and reusable across the applications or pods. Okay, and it can be accessible via the PVC. Okay, persistent volume climb is attached in the pod. Okay, and as I said, these are the modes: read write once, read only many, read write many. We'll be seeing that in the upcoming video. And now let us see the types of persistent, I mean, the types of storage backends for persistent volumes. So here there is a many types we'll be discussing on majorly six types. Okay, local disk. It is something. It's node's own storage we can say. So this is the direct storage on the node's mission. It is fast but tied to a specific node. So if the pod moves, it cannot flow along with the pod. Okay, and it is faster. Why? Because it is uh, and also there is a drawback which is node specific only. Out of the node, it won't work. And the second one was second storage type was NFS, which is a network file store system. So here it is a shared network storage accessibility, accessible by multiple pods across the different nodes simultaneously, and it is shareable across the network based. Okay, and the third one was AWS EBS, AWS Elastic Block Storage. It is the AWS managed cloud storage, which is highly performance and automatically replicated and durable within an availability zones. Okay, and Azure, I mean, these are the cloud storage again, Azure Disk as well as Google disk, Google persistent disk. Okay, and there are certain features out of this cloud provided storages also. So this is auto encrypted and globally available. For Azure, it is scalable and AKS native, and for AWS, it is durable as well as high input output process. And we has SIP also and other. Those are self-hosted distributed storage. It is open source distributed storage, and it also provides a on-prem as well as a hybrid also. Okay, so especially for on-prem and distributed, we can go with these storage systems. Now let us understand a real-world example how exactly the database plus a pod persistent works in the real time. Okay, let's take one scenario where we have a Postgres SQL database pod that stores your customers' orders for an e-commerce application. So here, persistent volume backed by a AWS EBS, Elastic Block Storage. Here, let's say we have a 100 GB, which was a dedicated disk was provided, and it persists independently of any node, any pod, we can say. Okay, and here, whenever the pod crashes or gets rescheduled, Kubernetes will deletes the pod and starts a fresh one on other node. Okay, and now here the new pod will reconnect to the same persistent volume, and it mounts the same persistent volume client which was earlier mounted, and it finds the all customers orders and exactly where they are stored. Okay, and also it is zero data loss. That means that the customers never notice the disruption happened and the business continues as usual. Okay, and this is exactly why the production databases obviously require a persistent volume, and this is how exactly the flow or a real world example whatever we just discussed here. Let's say we have a Kubernetes, sorry, e-commerce database scenario. This is one node, and whenever the node within the node the pod was recreated, then there might be a chances of pod recreating in another node also. So in that case, if we had touched the VPC, then the data is persistent and there is no loss and there is no impact for the business also. Okay. Now let us understand the persistent volume life cycle. Okay, how exactly the storage is managed over the time. There are primarily four stages, which is available, bound, released, reclaimed. Available in the sense provisioning. Okay, provisioning of a persistent volume. So here admins will create a persistent volumes manually, which is the static method, and Kubernetes also creates it automatically via the storage classes, which is your automatic dynamic process. So here, once it was created, then a persistent volume becomes available state. Okay, then the second stage will come. That means the binding process. So the application will create a persistent volume climbs the requesting for this storage. Then Kubernetes will matches the persistent volume climb to a suitable persistent volume, and it binds them together. Then persistent volume state will become the bound. Okay, then coming to the third stage, which is using, that means pod will mounts the persistent volume climb, and it actively uses the persistent volume. So the data is read as well as written, so the pod can be restarted multiple times also. Still the persistent volume will stays bound as well as the data is preserved. Now here it was what we can say a released state or else intact across the restarts. Okay, and then finally reclaiming. That means whenever the persistent volume claim is deleted, that means that pod itself deleted. So here the reclaim policy will decides what exactly happens. So that is basically the retain, that means keeping the data, or else deleting, that means deleting the disk cleanup. Okay, and recycle, that means wipe and reuse. Okay, so this is the reclaiming stage. Okay, and this is the entire life cycle of your persistent volume. Now let us understand the persistent volume, like a complete picture or whatever we just discussed in this particular video. The key takeaways out of this particular video was, as I said, pod is the tenant or people who are coming to the rent basis in the room, and persistent volume is a permanent house or storage. Okay, and here as a result, persistent volume will make sure entire data is always available. Okay, and the key takeaways was persistent volume is a cluster storage resource, and it can be attached for pods, containers, okay, and nodes that might be in different pods, different containers also, and different nodes also. Okay, and it exists beyond the pod lifecycle. As I said, it works in another node also, and it backed by a real storage. And as we just seen the four stages of what we can say. persistent volume, and it is especially essential for production databases. And in the upcoming video we will be seeing how exactly the persistent volume climb works. Okay, and I hope so you found some useful information out of this particular video, and see you in the upcoming video. Stay tuned for more videos. Thank you for watching.